Hey guys! So, as I will never ever shut up about it, Squid Game 2 is coming out. If you guys didn't already know, I know everybody knows. And I mean, if we all know anyway, we all know that the main character is a gambling addict, which I found so interesting because casinos are straight up illegal in Korea. There's like more than 20 and only one Korean citizens can go to. And they do have a national lottery and you can bet on horse racing, but widely it's illegal to gamble in Korea for the most part for only Korean citizens, but really encouraged for foreigners and a huge part of tourism. And there's a lot of different countries that are like that. So it made me think about this intersection between gambling and international relations. And this is a really fun one. So welcome back, you guys. I'm Reese, and I'm so glad that you guys decided to adventure with me today. On Reese Gray Analyzes, we look at creations and experiences in art, media, music, and even video games to explore exactly why we think the way we think, question what we believe, and learn something new. So let's get straight into this. Gambling addiction is recognized by the World Health Organization, and they classify a gambling disorder as one of the behavioral addictions. So behavioral addictions can also be things like food addictions, shopping addictions, those types of things are behavioral addictions. So as this is classified even in the World Health Organization, but not the DSM-5, whatever, I'm not a psychologist. So since the World Health Organization does classify gambling addiction as a disorder, we can see that it has like the same legitimacy as other addictions such as like substance abuse and such. And this really highlights its severe mental health impact. And so there is a international recognition that gambling addiction is very bad. But we also know that gambling is a huge business. The global gambling market is worth $500 billion. And online gambling actually accounts for 25% of that. People with severe gambling addictions are also 15 times more likely to. So that's crazy. That's crazy. So there's a recognition that gambling is a huge industry. There's a recognition that gambling addiction is horrible. And there is a recognition that, hey, maybe we don't want our own citizens suffering from this horrible disorder. But I guess, if other people's citizens wanted to, who are we to stop them? We all have free will, right? And so here comes this gray area where making money and morality meet, and usually making money wins. We can talk about everyone's favorite buzzword, neoliberalism. And this refers to like an economic and political ideology that emphasizes deregulation. It also emphasizes privatization and free market expansion, not to mention also at the expense of social welfare. And neoliberalism facilitates its growth of gambling by prioritizing profit. Neoliberalism always prioritizes profit and market efficiency over public health and ethics. And there's a global understanding that gambling is bad for you. And in the context of this, in the context of gambling and behavioral addictions, this really interesting thing that's going on is the commodification of behavior. So neoliberalism treats human behaviors, including risk-taking behaviors and compulsive behaviors, and understands these tendencies and exploits them as market opportunities, like predatory design. And if anybody's been in a casino, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They have ladies walking around with free drinks. If they see you're a high roller, they offer you free vouchers for the buffet. If they see you're a high roller, they give you a really fancy room for a couple of days and just encourage you to stay there and spend. And you know that this isn't healthy even for anybody who has a lot of money. You guys remember Uncle Ted's Cambodian donut shop? You guys remember that? He was like locked up at the Wynn and lost his family fortune. It's terrible. So these gambling industries capitalize on this by designing systems with this in mind. They design their slot machines, online gambling apps, their casinos to maximize engagement and revenue and don't consider what's good for a human being. So they're making money at the individual's expense, and it's fine to them because, I mean, they're making a choice. And neoliberalism itself, it emphasizes this personal responsibility over systemic accountability. So in gambling, this means placing the burden on individuals to self-regulate. And some examples of how some countries try to mitigate citizens of their own countries not succumbing to this horrible gambling addiction would be like Canadian casinos offer voluntary self-exclusion programs where they can ban themselves from going to casinos to help mitigate their gambling addiction. And these programs, like voluntary self-exclusion from these casinos, deflect any attention from these systemic issues. So it leads to this industry's like unchecked growth, basically. And it embeds this like anti-human but pro-market perspective, telling people that they're a personal failure, you know, if they succumb to this, but not blaming a system. And yes, people should take responsibility for their addictions and for their actions, but I'm also saying that the system doesn't help. So why then do several countries adopt stringent and creative policies to stop their own citizens from gambling, but promote it to foreigners to generate revenue? Well, there's something called dependency theory, where nations benefit at the expense of other nations. For example, like the gambling hubs of the world are Las Vegas and Macau. And these places thrive by attracting international visitors. And these visitors come from other countries with really strict regulations, such as China. And they profit off of these international vulnerabilities, basically. You know, the funny thing is, US and UK corporations even move their strategies and their companies overseas to places like Macau to make more money off of an international audience whose local governments disallow gambling. The same people own the same ones on the Vegas Strip are the ones in Macau, the same owners. If you've ever been on the Strip, the Venetian, the Palazzo, the Wynn, MGM, all those are in Macau. Same thing. So, I mean, I can hate on them for being predatory, but they really got their business figured out. I gotta give them that. And due to this, there are several countries with these contradictory gambling policies. So I'll go through a couple of them. Korea, as mentioned, with their contradictory gambling laws. So about that one casino that's allowed, it's up in the mountains, because it's on a ski resort, right? So it'd be hard to get there anyway. It's called Gangwon Land, and you can go and gamble if you're a Korean citizen, but there's even restrictions on time spent at the casino and frequency. So it's not even like you can go whenever you want. But of course, for tourists, you can go whenever you want. And so, of course, that makes foreign revenue with limiting local harm. And also, I did go to a casino in Korea before, and it's like the saddest thing ever. So I've like been to Vegas, had fun in Vegas, you know, like the sounds are loud, tons of TVs going on. Sometimes there's a random DJ just like in the middle of it. There's like sexy ladies just like walking around like dressed in the classic Vegas stuff. Like it's fun. And then when I went to the casino in Korea, it was dead silent. One, the people were not even welcoming. They like checked our passport and were like super duper, like the dude who checked my passport, like he was like suspicious of me. And then I was like, I wonder what his problem is. And then I went in, it was all old men. Like I went with my sister. There was just us. And then we saw like one other person who could like be an auntie or something. And then we were just like, what? And everybody was like kind of staring at us. And I get it. Like, why are two young girls like at a casino? But like that's kind of like normal in Vegas. So I thought it'd be like a Vegas vibe, but it was bizarre. And then like we spent like 20,000 won, which is like $15 USD, right? And so like we put in a slot machine and like we're trying to figure out or whatever. And we lost it in like 30 seconds. And it was the most depressing thing.
What's happening? Something's going on right here. Did you win? I don't think so. Nope, you lost.
And then we just left. And I was just like, that was horrible. So I just had to trauma dump on you guys really quick, so. Singapore's casino model, you actually are charged. If you're a citizen of Singapore, you have to pay $120 just to get into a casino. Or you can pay the annual fee of $2,500 in order to go to a casino. So it's a hefty fee, and that's just for the membership. So basically you're paying the equivalent of like one Costco membership every time you visit a Singaporean casino if you're a Singaporean resident. So this discourages gambling a lot, this entry fee. But for foreigners, it's an open door policy. Anybody can come in, no fee at the door. And Singapore aggressively markets their Marina Bay resorts. These are like luxury tourist destinations there, and it does look nice. And then we have Macau, which is the gambling capital of the world. It rivals Las Vegas. Ways that they like get away with this narrative too is that they say that making these tourist destinations, well, it's not so bad because it creates jobs. And you'd have to think, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of jobs when the casinos that make the most money in the world are on the Strip and in Macau and owned by the same corporations. So even though Macau is the Las Vegas of Asia, I found it really interesting that they ban public officials, anybody who works for the government, to gamble at casinos. So I found that really interesting. So regardless if they gamble or not, they cannot enter. But it's a foreign magnet, especially for Chinese tourists, because gambling is illegal in mainland China. But again, China does have the lottery, but they don't have casinos. So Macau's like casinos, they're like, you know how Las Vegas sometimes it's like, you know, skeevy sometimes. Like when you think about Vegas, you think about maybe sometimes it being a little on the cheapo side, but Macau is like the aspirational fancy pants part. Or maybe I'm just poor, so I experience Vegas as a poor person, but it's even still fun. I love it, and I love the Excalibur, man. That's a good time. Anyway, so another fun international fact is that Australia has one of the highest gambling addiction rates globally, and that's due to these like pokies or slot machines that they have like everywhere apparently. But they do have like a lot of advertising restrictions, and there's like a lot of public health campaigns to like aim at addressing this crisis. But you know, per capita, who gambles the most? Australians. That's wild. But despite having, you know, the most gambling going on by their local citizens, they still cater heavily to international markets, particularly from Asia, again, because it's closer to go to Australia than it is the US. And there's Crown, Melbourne, and Star Sydney that are like the global gambling hotspots. And there are other ways that countries do this with other vices too, like Dubai and alcohol. Their citizens aren't allowed to drink alcohol, but foreigners can, and that gives them a lot of money at their hotels. Thailand has a whole cannabis tourism for medicinal purposes and markets this to foreigners, but their residents are not allowed to partake in cannabis even for medical use. And so that's just interesting and fun and sad, like a sad way like to look at the othering that goes on like a global scale. If you guys have any more ideas of like the, you know, international relations intersections of any other like issues, feel free to let me know. And as always, Kay, love you. Bye.